with all due respect.
Hey, we're Josh Ortegon and Gray Gaines, and this is With All Due Respect, the show where we keep it real about health, fitness, and performance. From weight loss to sports development, we're covering the conversations that matter.
Follow us on Instagram at Phenom Fitness, PHNM Fitness, and visit www.phenomfit.com to check out our training programs, coaching, and gear built for real results. Let's get into it.
All right, guys, we are back with episode 82, right? Did I get that right? All right,
82.
episode 82.
Yeah.
Episode 82. And Gray, this is Gray said, hey, I got an idea for a series. And I went, sweet. I don't think I even need to hear it. I was just down with whatever we're going to talk about. Right. But we got a series coming up 5 or 6 in a row where we're going to talk about and different people coming on.
Mm-hmm.
But fertility, women's health. But we're kicking this off with men's fertility.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking on the way home, since me and Mike totally almost dropped the ball on this thing, I was like, well, let me bring some thoughts to the steps. It is mostly common that when couples have fertility problems, I feel a majority of the time that's put on the women.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel like from a psychological, social perspective, women carry the most weight when couples are trying to get pregnant, and women carry that, and a dude is going to be like, well, right. I tell you this, when we wanted to have a kid, the joke in the house was, I have to change my whole perspective because I've been trying to avoid this for 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was just like, I've been trying not to.
Yeah. But that's such the truth. Like, that's what Austin and I have started talking about, because like I was the same way and I never wanted kids.
Yeah.
And now we're starting
remember.
to think about like buying a house and like having an extra bedroom because we're having kids, or like, we've talked about, okay, what does life look like when we do want to start conceiving? It's like, are we giving up alcohol? Are we giving up caffeine? Like, what does that look like? And that's still,
What's crazy? I was telling
2
Rachel,
years for me, but
I was telling Rachel literally last week. I said, it has been amazing in 4 years to watch Gray go from never getting married, never want a boyfriend, I'm going to travel the world, to getting married and now buying a home around wanting kids. I go, this has been awesome to see the process of literally, because that's what, when we first met and started working together, it was like,
yeah,
I don't need a boyfriend, I'm not getting married, I'm going to travel the world, I just don't see it in me, I'm good. And now it's, we're going to buy a home, I got to have the 4th bedroom, we're going to have now we got podcasts around fertility and having kids.
Yeah.
And I think it's great, but it was a mindset shift for me. I do think it is psychological, socially, the women carry the weight.
Yeah.
For that. Is that right, Mike? Do you kind of feel the same way, Mike?
Yeah,
The women mostly carry the weight for, if they go a couple months and they can't get pregnant, it's usually the woman's going to be like, well, what's wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
The man's just like, I'm doing my thing. Right?
That's a big reason is like why I wanted to talk about the male side of it, is because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but at least I'm seeing a lot more research or social media posts, people talking about, oh, well, it's the man too. Like, you actually have to pay attention to what the man is doing, the stress, the sleep, the diet, the lifestyle, everything. And so I wanted just to make sure that like that was included in this podcast series, because it is 50-50. It's not 100% woman and the man. It's just like there to make it happen,
Well, there probably was a time in our society, and there are probably cultures, that if a couple can't get married or a couple can't conceive, that the woman was almost shunned for it.
Mm-hmm.
That it was almost like shame on the female
Mm-hmm.
for not being able to bring, children into the marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do have a theory that I think this is becoming the most common because I have a huge number, a majority of conversations with dudes around TRT
Mhm.
and 27-year-old dudes that'll say, I want to get on TRT. And I say, hey, hold, pump the brakes. Like, do you want to have kids? Do you want, is that in the future? Talk to your girlfriend or your fiance, right? I had a friend of mine recently, tell me that they're getting married. They want to have a baby as soon as they can, I guess. Apparently the way he was talking to me, and he had to give up TRT, and he's like, "What do I do?" And I'm like, conversations you should have had 5 years ago,
Hmm.
right? I guess, right? I don't know, but we are starting off with male fertility, and that is this is onus on the dudes a little bit. Um, Mike, do you have what have you know in your 15 minutes of research? I mean, you have knowledge about this already. You're just putting together things to present to us, but you have knowledge of this already. Um, what are you seeing with society, culture, environmental factors? I'm reading a lot of stuff around like sperm count in men diminishing over the last 20, 30 years. What say you, Mike?
Yeah, so big picture, here's kind of the list that we'll cover of everything today that disrupts them. And then we'll talk about like big picture, what do we do about this? Where
Mhm.
do we go with this? So things that disrupt it, known things, STDs. So whether or not you know you have them or not, chlamydia, gonorrhea, all those sort of factors, syphilis. And this is kind of conventional medicine, and then we'll get into the weeds, things that you wouldn't get in a traditional OBGYN infertility workup. The varicocele, so the kind of inflamed vein plexus that people can have from birth in the testes that maybe they know about, maybe they don't know about. Low T, like we just talked about, that doesn't get worked up adequately. It doesn't really get treated a lot of times if you don't meet diagnostic criteria. Obesity and the blood sugar changes that go along with that, that trigger a lot of the chronic inflammation that leads to oxidative stress. And we'll go through the whole cascade. I've got a number of different, like we talked about last time, cascades, so we can see it like big picture zoomed out. If you've used anabolic steroids, that'll throw off this whole cascade. So even people that, oh, I just did a cycle or two and came off, it was no big deal. That can throw off the whole loop of the brain talking to the testes. Exposure from an environmental standpoint, heavy metals. So we're thinking about people that work in occupations like welding, car mechanics. They're exposed to things called polycyclic hydrocarbons and halogenated hydrocarbons. And so these are also found in things like hair dye. So males and females now, if you're using those sort of things, those can disrupt this whole endocrine. And we'll break each of these down. This is just big
Okay,
picture.
I've not heard that one.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
You don't got to worry about it. That's probably why you haven't heard.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, good.
um, so we've talked about in the past EDCs, endocrine disrupting chemicals. These are things that plasticizers, parabens, phthalates, so heavy scents or things that make plastics more pliable, plasticizers. BPA was one that everybody knew about. Now they're like, oh, it's BPA free. They use BPS. It's a chemical analog. They have similar effects on the HPG, the hypothalamus pituitary gonad axis. That's the brain talking to the testes. Other big ones would be things like flame retardants. So if you buy a mattress or furniture now, they're all sprayed with flame retardants. They come fresh from the factory like that. Um, unless you specifically are looking for one. And so as that off gases, so you know that new car smell that people talk about, that's off gassing, where the actual chemicals from the plastic components and the rubber components are releasing the actual chemical constituents and you're inhaling them. Those are known as VOCs or volatile organic compounds. Long-term exposure to those can precipitate disruption in this axis. And then we're thinking about things like proximity to your neighbor gets a Chemlon treatment once a week. You live right next to a golf course. These sort of organopollutants and organophosphate chemicals will disrupt this cascade. It's in the medical literature. It is proven now. I'm not just spouting random facts that I saw in an Instagram post. These are actually in the medical literature. You also see things like air pollution, so people's proximity to a freeway. You look at things like particulate matter, so it's measured in ppms, and you'll see this sometimes on your weather app on your iPhone. You'll get a notification air quality index very high today. So people with respiratory conditions should be aware that air quality index, if you live really close to a freeway, increases air pollution, and air pollution is linked with infertility, at least in males in the medical literature. And then things like Substance use, tobacco use, marijuana use, alcohol use, all three are positively linked with male infertility. And then last but not least, prolonged exposure to heat. So we'll talk about things like laptops, saunas, hot tubs, even like really tight fitting clothing. All of those things can contribute. And then big picture, all these things generate oxidative stress. The more oxidative stress, the more inflammation, the more the body tries to dampen that. So the more you have things that contribute to inflammation and don't reduce it, the higher that oxidative stress load, and thus the more likely this whole cascade gets dysregulated. So we can kind of go into the schematics of how all this breaks down, but that's kind of like big picture, and we can dive into any of those individually.
I tell you, as you talk through that, and say I'm a guy listening to this, and because my wife made me listen to this, which is usually how this is going to go down, right? A woman's going to watch this, and she's gonna be like, "You got to watch it." You're probably like, "Holy crap! Like, what's all this stuff that I can't? What now? I can't go golfing anymore? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
if you're there's got to be a spectrum on these where you could say like, "Hey, man."
Mhm.
If you're looking at starting a family and you're a dude and you got checked and you're questionable on your sperm count, here are the big, small hinges that move big doors.
Yes.
What could you say if somebody literally is listening to this and be like, well, shoot, I can't go on the golf course anymore. I can't drink plastic bottle of plastic. I can't wear tight compression shorts anymore, and I got to sleep on the floor because I got
Right.
somebody,
Yeah, yeah.
somebody's splayed retarded on my stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. You know what I'm
We
saying?
don't
If
we
you're
don't want to
big,
go back to
yeah,
like living like a caveman.
yeah,
So I would say you need the like conventional medical workup. So you need to rule out like with a testicular exam, do you have a varicocele? And then you need to rule out with labs, is there any sort of like brain-based pathology? So we'll talk about those labs, but you get those two things, and then from there you need to rule out, do you have low T, and then do you have sleep apnea? Those are kind of like the four big ones. Once we do that, then we can talk about optimization, and those are going to be daily habits, not the occasional round of golf. So if you drink out of a plastic water bottle every single day, yeah, you should probably switch that for glass or for metal, stainless steel.
okay,
People would say, well, what difference does this really make? Well, it's not only beneficial for your oncoming fetus potentially, but it's also beneficial for you in the long run. There's no benefits to plasticizer exposure. So, what's the risk? Well, there's really none. So, those are the sort of interventions on a daily basis that you can start to make one at a time. Don't overhaul your whole life. But I have a big picture slide at the end once we kind of talk through these that'll be like, hey, let's zoom out. Here's all the things you should be considering. And here's kind of the checklist, but it always starts with a medical workup, and you'll typically get this from your primary care. If you are low testosterone, then you need to be replaced to a normal physiologic level, and you need to have, like we talked about on the TRT podcast, you need to rule out all those things like hemochromatosis or a head injury or all these other things that can mess up
mm.
testosterone production, making you infertile. That may just be not fixed with TRT. There could be something underlying all that. So that's kind of the hierarchy I would start with and then kind of work through those one
So
at a
there's a
time.
concussion side to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 just like we
Oh,
talked about. So you can have like a TBI that disrupts the brain talking to the gonads, and then as a result, you're low T, and then as a result, you're infertile.
oh, okay. So it's the step. Okay, it's
Yep,
this. Then this causes that.
yep.
Hmm.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
it's not like you hit your head and then all of a sudden you just don't produce sperm anymore. It's
okay.
more the testosterone production lowering that.
Well, the big conversation I am hearing from people say, I think Peter T has talked about it. Um, I've heard other medical. Man, the internet's so crazy. It's
Hmm.
because you hear people say things sometimes, and you're just like, oh my God, come on, like, And so you build just like you, Mike. You have a trusted catalog of people you listen to that you're like, I'm just going to listen to this guy's stuff because it's been consistently good. Peter T, I believe, had somebody on, and there's some other people I've listened to that they've talked about the real concern of lowering of 30, 40 years of the lowering of the male testosterone and men infertility in men.
Hmm.
And and I don't know how else when you think about the major changes in the last 30, 40 years that we've had, we're very less active.
Hmm.
There is way more unnatural substances that we're taking in at a ridiculously, even at my age, maybe great at your age, because we're probably a generation apart.
Hmm.
I think of the things that are available when I was a kid to be exposed to. It's nowhere near
Yeah.
what kids are exposed to now, whether it's food, environmental factors, way less activity. Uh, and to me, when I think of way less activity, way less sunlight, way more environmental factors with food, and sleep has absolutely been destroyed in the last 30 to 40 years.
Mhm.
Right. So I feel like those are big prime movers for me. Sleep, activity, environment, the quality of the food we're eating, the things we're exposed to.
Hmm.
And we get less activity. And in the last couple days, um, I at jujitsu, I fell and hit my hip and I felt my SI shift. And if anybody's ever had
Hmm.
SI shift, that's like one of the worst, bro. Having an SI out is just like you're walking down the steps and all of a sudden it buckles and you just fall on the floor. But one of the things that was really in my mind is I'm like, I sit all the time.
Hmm.
I have to have a schedule because when I get on the computer, sometimes I like hyper
Yes,
focus
sir.
zoned in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I haven't moved. And I get up and I'm like, oh, everything hurt. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to give myself reminders to get up and do hip flexor stretching or something. And it just really had me thinking this week, man, how many people are spending 8 hours at a desk inactive,
Super
drinking coffee,
inactive.
not
Like
working
that
out,
was
not getting
like,
sunlight? That's gotta be part of the major problem.
yeah, that's like another reason why I brought up this whole series. And, a piece of this is I don't know all of my mom's friends and like their stories with getting pregnant and stuff, but it's definitely, in my opinion, way harder to get pregnant now than it used to be. Like, I just don't ever remember my mom talking about the difficulty of getting pregnant around like her group of people. And you're right, Josh, like the environmental exposures that we have now, like it used to be a smaller population of people in the workforce would have all of these environmental exposures. And now it's like we all as a population have a ton of environmental exposures and decrease in activity. We don't know how to eat food. We don't know how to sleep.
Mike, would you say those are prime movers?
Yeah, and I think when you look at the difference in the way that chemicals are regulated in the US versus even Europe, there's a significant difference. And so in Europe, there's a twist in that a chemical in the US, for example, a chemical has to be proven to produce harm in humans before it's taken off the market, versus in Europe, the chemical has to be proven to be safe before it's introduced into humans. So the burden of evidence
Isn't that
is
interesting?
on the producer, versus in this case, the burden of evidence is on the consumer in the
Mm.
US. So that's one piece of the puzzle. When you look at the exponential explosions, I think the last time I looked at the data, we're introducing somewhere upwards of tens of thousands of new chemicals yearly. I don't quote me on this, but I think the number is somewhere where we have chemicals now up in the 80,000 different types of chemicals that are used now industrially, environmentally, even in household products. And so to say that all of these products are proven to be safe, we've all heard the term safe and effective. That was very popular in the last few years. And so, even with that safety data on certain things that come out, that doesn't always play out in the long run. So, no one safety tested all of these compounds. So, I generally function off the precautionary principle with a lot of these conversations with the folks. And people will say, well, you can't prove that the fact that I eat Tupperware every day and heat up plastic in the microwave is contributing to my altered sperm motility and morphology. That's right. Yeah, I don't have a test for BPA and BPS. You can look at it in the urine hypothetically, but there's so many cofactors and things that will change that test. It's not worth it. It's a waste of money. But I always tell patients in general with these sort of situations, getting healthy is going to lead to improvement of all of your symptoms, regardless of what they are. So let's say in general, if somebody comes with infertility, they're not just going to be infertile with nothing else. They'll have sleep issues, or they'll have energy issues, or they'll have joint pain. Something else will be there. And so as a result, it's not focusing on that one thing and saying, oh, well, I have joint pain because of X, Y, or Z. Well, let's remove all those other things that we know to be unhealthy contributors to humans in general. And then let's see what happens with all those symptoms. The vast majority of pregnancies that I've had the um, honor of being a part of conceiving that individual, the focus wasn't on conception. It was, hey, let's get both humans as healthy as possible. Let's emphasize as many of these healthy habits as possible. And then they were like, oh, shoot, we were told we were infertile and we never have a baby. And now all of a sudden we're pregnant. How did that happen? Right. You remove all those things that disrupt this HPG axis. You allow the body to get back to normal. You ensure that there's no medical pathology initially. If there's not, and they call it idiopathic, aka we can't figure it out,
Yeah.
you remove known disruptors. You give the things the body needs to produce normal sperm. And we'll talk about what those nutrients are and those sort of things. And then we wait and see what happens. Sometimes it's adequate inputs with removal of disruptors and then adequate time.
Hey, I was going to say that has to be separated from we don't know why with I have a medical reason
Correct.
I can't get pregnant,
Correct.
Mhm.
right? Um, what have you seen from the, or what do you know of from the male perspective, since this is a male conversation? What have been the main contributors? Has it to infertility? Has it been um, trauma, brain trauma, uh, anabolic use, just an unhealthy individual? Because there is part of me that, there's the nature versus nurture, there's the size. I'm not, there's no science here. None. I'm not, this is the non-science side of this. That the last thing an unhealthy body is thinking is how to procreate.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I'm not even sure that nature wants us to procreate if we're all at an unhealthy level. It's like, man, we're not, like, nature's going to say, you can't even procreating. Like, you are completely, I think of, you ever guys remember the movie, um, Species? You guys remember that movie?
No.
Well,
Mm-mm.
Species was a movie where she came down, she was an alien. Great movie, made it that the alien was extremely attractive, right? And and her goal was to procreate and make more alien babies like her. Well,
Hmm.
in the movie, um, she was trying to find a male partner, and but her body could sense that the male partner was diabetic, had some genetic
Oh,
issues, and was like,
interesting.
"Whoop, nope," and then killed him because he's like, "Oh, you can't procreate." And like, "Boop,"
What
killed
a
him.
Only
wild
you
movie.
would literally know what this movie
Wild
is.
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, but
But
but no, there's
honestly,
there's people that are in. Listen, people in their late 40s are watching this, Gray. They remember.
okay,
They
well,
know.
I am just in my late 20s, so I
Yeah,
will
yeah.
I will get there in
But
20
Species was a movie where she was like, "Oh no, my body sensed that you have all these problems.
kill you.
You killed them.
Hilarious.
You
Well,
can't
honestly,
procreate."
I think the more concerning thing right now is that like people that would be deemed generally healthy are still having issues. So
Hmm.
it goes much deeper. So it's like, I know I texted you guys about this, like, why are my friends having issues getting pregnant when like they do work out, they do see the sun, they do have a pretty overall like healthy relationship with health in
Yeah.
general. Why is it so hard for people to get pregnant nowadays when they feel like they're doing stuff like mostly right? Like it seems like a lot of my friends have been on a fertility journey for like 12 to 18 months. It's not like, hey, immediate 3 months, it's happening. It's like it's taking a long time.
Well, what if it's just more okay to talk about?
Totally. And that's what I brought up earlier. Like, I don't know if it was a thing with my mom's generation or even y'all's. I mean, Mike, we're almost the same age, a little bit off, but Josh, like your generation, if it was
Hmm.
harder for them, or if it's just a thing now where it's more talked about, or if it's truly harder.
I think one of the things is, and um, I'm going to make a blanket statement. I
Yeah.
think many people assume that they're doing all that's possible to be healthy.
Definitely.
I have yet to meet
Mm.
many well-informed patients who were actually doing all those things. It is becoming more common now, thankfully, due to social media. That's the one good part about social media. Um, but I find, at least in the environmental space, patients aren't fully aware. Um, and that whole side of that discussion, even if they're well managed medically from whether it be female with OBGYN and male with their primary care, I haven't found young patients getting an adequate workup. for one. And number two is I haven't found patients who are well managed from a chronic stress standpoint, which drives blood
Mhm.
sugar abnormalities, which drives
Hmm.
inflammatory signaling and thus dysregulation of all of these cascades in terms of the hypothalamus gonadal, hypothalamus pituitary, or hypothalamus thyroid, and then hypothalamus adrenals. Those three axes all talk to one another. So you throw off stress, you throw off thyroid function, or you throw off gonadal function. All three of those will talk to one another. So I haven't seen great management of those things. And then I haven't talked to too many women who are aware of long-term effects of endocrine disrupting chemicals, and they're
Hmm.
not sure of how to screen the products that they're using. They don't know that you really shouldn't have Glade wall plugins all over your house. If you're concerned about infertility, they don't know that Febreze is not good for your body from an endocrine standpoint. So these sort of basic things that like we've talked about in the past, don't put perfume directly on over your thyroid gland. Like these sort of things where it's like, well, that's just normal. You just always put perfume on your skin. Well, right. Cheap perfumes have endocrine disrupting chemicals. These are known to disrupt thyroid physiology, and you're spraying it directly on the gland that it can be absorbed topically. So, like these sort of things, we talk about them on the podcast, and it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But most people, like we've talked about in the past, these sort of links aren't always out there. I can
Hmm.
probably count on one, maybe two hands the number of patients that I was like, wow, they're doing all the stuff. I don't really know where to go with this. So, I think
Yeah.
that may be part of it.
And that's like another a big point too is like we're now starting to pay attention more to not just like the sleep, stress, lifestyle, like exercise, diet piece of it. There really is this other component over here of what are you putting on your body? Not just in your body, but on
Right.
your body. Like what are you consuming through your nose, through your skin?
Mhm.
Um, Drinking out of plastic water bottles is a huge one too. And I think a lot of people are very reluctant to believe that that is an issue. Like when I have conversations with clients or even with friends, they're like, no, like, what's the big deal? It's just plastic. And you're like, it's okay,
Hey,
it's
me and
just
Mike, me and
plastic.
Mike, me and Mike have worked with people directly
Totally.
who have
100%.
given up, gone glass everything,
Mm-hmm.
changed the water bottles, changed the
Yep.
Glade, and we have seen major changes in just how they sleep, how they feel,
Yep. Yep.
all the way down to you know the stuff you people. I hate carpet. We got rid of a lot of carpet in the house. I'd
Good.
rather just light fire on the carpet anyway and just burn it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the stuff they put on the carpet when they vacuum,
Correct.
right?
Oh, totally.
Rachel has said before, and we've had conversations with a client friend of mine. The real popular thing is the makeup that is
Mhm.
more healthy. What do they call it? They call it something. What's the makeup called?
Non-comedogenic.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
What do they
Non,
call
what's
it?
how do you say it? Non-comedogenic?
Non-commodogenic. What do they call
Something
it?
like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Healthy makeup that they put, or the hair care products.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hypoallergenic. I don't know. I don't know.
Not that one. Not it's
Yeah,
non-comedogenic.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It doesn't clog
Yeah.
the pores. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for dudes, right? Do dudes need to worry about body lotion, soap?
Yeah.
In general, I encourage if we're at this point where it's a couple and they're saying we just want to get pregnant, whatever it takes.
Okay.
Okay, well, if
Yeah.
that's the case, then we're going to go through each of these systematically and we're going to check off as many of them as humanly possible. Because even if it only gives you 5% benefit, well, 5% from 10 different contributors is significant. So, yeah, you probably should do a generalized inventory. And we'll talk about that. I have resources for people at the end here in the
Okay.
slides of, hey, use this to scan all of your personal products. If it's significantly elevated in terms of oncogenic risk, so potential cancer risk, or immunological or allergenic risk of you potentially reacting to it, get rid of it. There's so many alternatives now. The one thing that I caution people with is we have this potential um, risk of nocebo, the opposite of placebo, where we assume there's going to be a negative
Mm,
outcome, and so as a result, you can potentially induce negative outcomes from the
hmm.
stress or the worry of it.
Yes.
And so there's a certain level to this that we're almost getting neurotic in the natural health space with some things that I would say the quality and the weight of the evidence isn't there yet. For example, if somebody's like, "Oh, the reason why you haven't conceived is because you're using Old Spice deodorant and not native deodorant. Okay, well, for one, I'm not really interested in paying $15 for a stick of deodorant, but for two, I'm not really convinced that it's just that thing. Maybe that's contributing 2 to 5%, but the overall weight of evidence isn't there to show that maybe those chemicals in there aren't or are contributing. So that's where I don't get neurotic about it. And I kind of form this hierarchy like we've been talking about, where it's like, do all these things first. If you're like, I'm doing 80% of these, okay, cool. If you want to switch out your deodorant and you have a little extra cash, that's probably not going to hurt you. I always start with what are the big things that you're going to be exposed to on a daily basis over the vast majority of the surface area of your skin. That's things like laundry detergents, lotions, if you're using them, spray deodorants, those sort of things that aerosolize that you inhale and get on this larger surface area of the skin. These are the big time movers. So we just have to be cautious about making people too neurotic about it.
The neurotic side is real because we all know people, I've seen people comment that I drink Diet Dr. Pepper sometimes while they put a dip in their mouth.
Right.
Right. They're like, "Oh, you drink Diet Dr. Pepper?" And I'm
It's
like,
all
"What are
relative
we
risk.
doing? Yeah,
It's
what are
Right.
all
we?"
relative risk.
And there are some things, Mike, there are some things and some changes that I still have not made
Hmm.
that I know I've not made because I have a long list of things I do now. My little box, my toolbox that I'm
Hmm.
working in right now. I'm working in
Yep.
right now. My next switch, honestly, is is on the supplement side.
Hmm.
EPA's curcumin, and
Hmm.
what's the other one, Rach? What do you take? Vitamin D. Those
Yep.
are my next
Hmm.
three. Only because your recommendations to Rachel, no ibuprofen and no Tylenol for like 2, 3 months. None.
Huge.
Hmm.
So I've
Huge.
seen it now and I'm like, oh, I'm still, after all this time, I'm still a skeptic, I guess, right? But I saw it happen and I went, well, I want to do that, right?
Hmm.
I want to talk about the TRT side of this. And the reason I want to talk about the TRT side of this is every man assumes that if you're 27 and you have low testosterone, that you need to go straight to injections.
Hmm.
And I'm working with a couple right now. They just got married. His low T was low, and I think he went on, and he had a great doctor who got all the tests, went through his lifestyle, went through his diet, was really encouraged by the things I was doing with him and we were doing. I felt really good that finally a doctor was like, yes, those are the things you need to do, and not a doctor just like throw some TRT and start lifting some weights. He's a big, strong kid already, and his T levels went up 400 points. 400 points.
Hmm.
Um,
How quickly? How far apart were his blood tests?
3 months.
Wow.
400 points on Clomid and DHEA.
Here's a fun one. I have a buddy,
Just
he's a
Clomid and
PA.
DHEA.
I have a buddy, he's a PA. He had somebody most recently, their testosterone was 120.
Oh my gosh, you might as well transition.
Dude was in his 30s, and lifestyle changes and supplementation alone, they brought it up to 540.
Yes.
So they quadrupled it with no TRT, no
Oh my.
DHEA, no pregnenolone. So I was very surprised. The figure I always have seen in the literature is 15 to 20% in terms of the total increase from where you're at right now. Um, Evidently, I have to talk to him more about that case, but evidently you can shift it without. Now, obviously, TRT, Clomid, HCG, all these
Yeah, yeah,
things,
yeah.
they're going to improve it for sure. All the other things that we've talked about, independent of TRT, will also bring it up even more than your TRT.
Mike, is that
Yeah,
not crazy?
yeah. It was a cool case. I got to talk to him more.
And so I've heard of women having higher testosterone than 120, Mike.
Yeah,
Yep.
120 is
Like I would,
scary.
if I got somebody that got me back and they're like my testosterone level and the dude is 120, I would put him on FaceTime right away. It's like, bro, are you okay?
Yep.
Like how long? And usually when you start talking to people, because I've talked to guys with low T, they're like, joints hurt, motivation's low.
Yeah, fatigue, just
I'm like
chronic fatigue.
120. I hope you don't have guns in the house, bro. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
120. But my guy that went 550 to 900, I think we went 500, 900, 550, 900, somewhere around there. And so you don't have to go straight to the needle,
Mm-mm.
Hmm.
which will help you if you want to have kids in the long run, right?
And I mean, the big thing is like TRT is only part of this equation. So
%.
you can have adequate testosterone, but you can have jacked up sperm motility or morphology independent of your TRT. So it's only part of it.
Well, I read a big article today on androgen receptors.
Hmm.
Or did you send that, Mike? Or somebody sent me something on androgen receptors? I
Wasn't
can't
me, but
remember.
I'd like to read it.
I'll find it. Somebody sent me a client I've had forever. Where he's still a client, but it's like we almost work together now because he's so good. It's just like we have a great relationship going back and forth as far as how we work together now. Um, but androgen receptors and its relationship to the dosage of TRT, and is TRT really going to drive your testosterone levels up if your androgen receptors are tanked?
Yep.
Like you can't have. So the article went back to like androgen receptors, and because we all know, I have a good friend of mine he's on the TRT plus program. I always call it the TRT plus program. The plus means TRT plus a little more. He's gigantic big, great big, and his dosage is very little, which tells me androgen receptors wide open, hyper responder,
Hmm.
great genetics, and he has the response of somebody who's on way more dosage.
Hmm.
And when I'm like, dude, how much are you on? He'll tell me this. I'm like, you on more. He's like, no, dude, this is all I've ever done. A little TRT plus a little something extra. I think TRT and he takes some Deca.
Hmm.
And I'm like, you respond. He's like, dude, I've always been like that. He goes, I put on 40 pounds on my first cycle when I was like 23. And I'm like,
Yeah.
holy cow, right?
Yep.
But can you, for the audience out there of the dudes that's like, man, you guys talk a whole lot about TRT and testosterone replacement. Nobody ever told me about this not making babies thing with it. Can you explain that side?
Yeah. So let me share this with you guys so
Or
we can talk
did
through
I
it
just toss you a softball? Did I just toss you
for sure.
He's
okay.
For
ready for
sure.
the slides. He's so
Hey,
ready for the
interesting you
slides.
say that.
Uh-oh. I may not be able to share. You may have to
Requesting
do.
multiple presenters. Hey, I'm running the show around here. I just allowed it. I just allowed it.
All right, solid. So let's jump over here real
All
quick.
right.
All right. So I only
I see
had
a ball
like
sack. Gray, close your eyes.
I only had like 10 minutes to throw this together.
Blake,
So
Gray, close your eyes.
10 minutes to throw it together, and it's like so in depth. There's a graph for everything. There's 50,000 slides.
yeah. Well, a lot of this,
Mike,
like I said, was
did you hand draw that scrotum or did you pull that
I
off somewhere else?
no, that's compliments of Google.
Google.
Yeah.
Dang, what did you have to Google to find that? Huh? That's weird.
Male
Balls.
infertility.
Erase your. Mike's like, I gotta erase my history.
Male infertility.
Okay.
So, big picture here. So, again, brain talking to the pituitary. That's not a
Oh,
scrotum, Josh. That's in the
okay.
brain.
Duh.
So, hypothalamus, the pituitary. Pituitary sends out these two hormones, which should get checked if you're infertile: LH, luteinizing hormone, and follicle stimulating hormone. Those go to two different types of cells, the Sertoli cells and the Leydig cells. So, this causes FSH, causes sperm production, LH causes testosterone production. So big picture here, focus on this side. This is the male side. This is the
Okay.
female side. So brain spits out, talking to the pituitary. These get spit out. FSH go to the Sertoli cells. They make sperm. LH goes to the Leydig cells. That causes the production of testosterone and all these other factors, like DHT, which is another downstream byproduct of testosterone. Could
Hmm.
go to estrogen, which is excess testosterone. And
Hmm.
then basically, as all these go up, you'll then get feedback to the brain saying, hey, we've got plenty of all these things. Don't continue to make them. So, this is how head trauma can impact production from the hypothalamus or production from the pituitary. And so, this can be if you got an issue with producing sperm in the actual testes, it's primary. And then if it's secondary, it's pituitary and tertiary in the hypothalamus. Now, the reason why this matters in terms of talking about this whole axis, this is the HPG, hypothalamus pituitary gonads, is because this axis talks to the HPA axis. Same constituent components in terms of hypothalamus, pituitary, but now we got the adrenals. And so the reason why these two are intertwined is when you throw off this HPA axis, so chronic stress, chronic sleep deprivation, excess caffeine, or you've done a cycle of um, excess steroids, for example. So you've been on prednisone, 10 milligrams for whatever, 6 months or a year because you have chronic joint pain. This will throw off this axis. And as such, that can throw off this HPG axis because they all talk to one another. Excess chronic stress that drives up excess cortisol gums up hormone receptors. So it reduces androgen sensitivity to the receptor. What matters is not just the production of testosterone, but how much is in circulation able to bind to the receptor. That's what we care about. You can't measure hormone receptor interaction or hormone receptor sensitivity. So that's the two axes. The third axis is the thyroid. Thyroid controls not only tissue turnover, but it's going to control metabolism and secretion of a number of hormones. If you're hypothyroid, you clear cortisol slower. And so that's a key piece in this puzzle. So
Whoa,
you can
hyper.
be,
You say if you're
if
hyperthyroid.
if your thyroid is
Hypo.
slow,
Okay.
meaning you don't have enough T3 being
Yes.
produced from T4 conversion, this controls cortisol clearance in the liver. So you can have people
Mm.
that are anxious and jittery and they have blood sugar abnormalities and they don't know why. It could be because of the fact that they are hypothyroid. And this can be also a receptor issue. So you can make adequate TSH, and a lot of times people go to their doc, they only pull a TSH. This is a brain-based hormone. It's not a thyroid-based hormone. T4 is a thyroid-based hormone.
Yep.
T3 is converted in mainly the liver and the GI tract, and it goes into circulation and binds to the receptor. So that's the full picture that you need. You can't measure T3 interaction directly at the receptor. You can measure things like T3 uptake. This, all three of these axes, this is why the first place I start with people is, hey, you got to get labs. Have you had a full thyroid panel? Have you had a full hormone panel? Have you had a DHEA and cortisol ratio workup? Have you had an ACTH? Do you have any of these other symptoms? This is why we have to start, because all these axes talk to one another. And this is why I tell patients your symptoms are not random. The body is signaling from one cascade to another. And so you may get anxious because of blood sugar abnormalities. That can be due to chronic underlying inflammation. That could be
Oh.
infectious. That could be autoimmune. That
Mm.
could be hypogonadism. So the list is endless, but that's why I start with these three axes so we can kind of understand, hey, this starts in the brain. So if you've had a car accident 2 years ago and you have light sensitivity and recurrent migraines, and now all of a sudden you're infertile, we probably should get a concussion workup for this human being, and we should get an FSH and LH just to make sure the brain is actually able to signal to the necessary anatomy to produce what we need to produce another human. So that's where you can kind of go down this cascade, build the timeline with patients, and figure out, hey, what's going on medically. All right. Then we get into, we were just talking about EDCs, and people are like,
Mhm.
where's the proof? This was, when we were talking, I pulled this up on Google and typed in EDCs infertility PubMed. This was one of the first studies that came up. This was one of the second studies that came up. I found this in less than 10 seconds. You can go dig around on PubMed for hours. And these studies, if you really want to go in depth, go to AI, not ChatGPT, but go to a medical AI. You often need an NPI number. You need to know somebody in the medical world, but they can pull AI who will coordinate with JAMA, with Mayo Clinic, and they can pull these studies from the medical literature itself.
So if you have
ChatGPT,
if you have that number, um,
yeah, yeah.
or if
Sorry,
you're
let
a
me back
nurse,
up. So
if you
NPI is
have,
like you're going to get it
yeah,
if you're a nurse, a physician, a
yes,
PT, occupational therapist. All these people have
yes.
a national provider index number.
If you
You
have that,
can,
you can have access to
it's a medical,
research-based medical
yeah.
AI.
Yep, it's called open evidence. You cannot get access to this unless you're a medical provider, but it will give you the studies themselves. So if you say, please show me all the
Jeez.
literature on EDCs and the correlation with infertility, please tell me the literature that has the highest weight and evidence showing not only relative risk, but absolute risk. It will pull all those studies for you. Um,
I would be on that thing. Gray wouldn't
yeah,
sleep for 3 days.
No, I
yeah,
literally wouldn't. What's your
Yeah.
number, Mike?
Yeah.
yeah,
Hand that
exactly.
out to everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hand that out to everybody. Yeah.
So there's ways to get into this, even if you're not a medical professional. But if you steal somebody's NPI, because those are
Gotcha.
public sources of information, if you steal somebody's NPI, it's a significant offense. So I would not recommend doing that. And I already have an account. So if somebody tries
I
to steal
didn't
my
steal
NPI,
it. I just borrowed it.
Borrowing it.
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, the literature's already out there. These are two of dozens of these studies, and this is just on direct exposure to fertility with EDCs. You can get into EDCs disrupting HPT and HPA axis. That's
Hmm.
all out there. Now, you'll also find in terms of the HPA axis, some cosmetics, especially those that come from overseas, are not well regulated. Some of these cosmetics have topical steroids in them because they will thin the skin and reduce the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. If you use topical steroids persistently at a high enough dose in unregulated products, this can down-regulate this whole axis because you're basically giving yourself topical cortisol. The body's going to convert it from cortisone into cortisol, and this feeds back to the brain and says, "Hey, stop making corticotropin-releasing hormone," and thus adrenocorticotropin, or sorry, ACTH. Um, uh, the acronym escapes me, but basically the downstream pituitary hormone that signals the adrenals to make cortisol. So, all that being said, these EDCs can disrupt both of these axes, both the HPA, the HPG, and the HPT axis, which is why they matter. Now, getting past all the medical stuff, where do we go with this? What do we do with this? What does the literature show that can actually make a difference? What you eat makes a huge difference. What you intake from a dietary standpoint makes a huge difference. This is a breakdown of all the nutrients that have supporting literature that have actually been studied. So zinc, selenium, folic acid, omega-3s, CoQ10, carnitine, and vitamin D. I should make this small piece here. Folic acid is common. I prefer the methylated form of this. And so you can look into the literature. There's more data on methyl tetrahydrofolate, which is the highly bioavailable form of folate. Don't get a multivitamin with folic acid if you can. Get a multivitamin. Look for one that says 5-MTHF, methyl tetrahydrofolate. That's an important distinction, but this is a wonderful meta-analysis and systemic review that looks at all of these specific nutrients and their impact on sperm directly, not just infertility outcomes, but whether or not they change sperm motility, morphology, as well as a number of other parameters. So again, does diet play an actual role in this? Yes, we see there's a number of nutrients. Here's another study looking at omega-3 fatty acids as well as other specific antioxidants, which will again go back to that oxidative stress component that we talked about earlier. Antioxidants will regulate that component. We see significant responses to diet, even in just a 2-week intervention period in this study, which show that not only there were changes in sperm motility, but from simple dietary changes, we also saw changes in, they measured specific mitochondrial RNA content, which are then passed on to the fetus as well. So other things, omega-3s, doesn't have to come from a supplement. If you're taking cheap omega-3s, these are going to be higher in persistent organic pollutants and volatile organic compounds like dioxins, like we talked about earlier. Meaning that if you take a cheap omega-3 supplement, you could be worsening your oxidative load, increasing your low-level systemic underlying inflammation, and worsening testicular function and subsequent infertility outcomes. Additional study on omega-3 usage in testicular function in males. So you'll see semen quality, as well as motility and morphology increasing, as well as FSH and LH. Vitamin D, big one. Again, super cheap, super easy to run. We've talked about it so much. Plays a definite role in sperm motility and morphology. Again, another study on this. Folate, we talked about it earlier with folic acid. Again, 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate is what you're looking for, but data showing significant improvements in not only IVF outcomes, but also sperm motility and morphology. Certain probiotics, I wouldn't jump down this rabbit hole too much. There was a couple studies on Lactobacillus paracasei and Lactobacillus rhamnosus. May improve it. What's the big takeaway with these two? If you're eating an adequate diet with fermented foods, so things like sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, fermented products like pickles, fermented onions, like pickled products, those will increase the natural probiotics that are already in your gut. Those things will make things like vitamin B12 and a number of other nutrients. So, last but not least, you need to be aware that there is good data on use of laptop computers sitting on top of males will lower sperm motility and morphology. That is not conjecture. That is well supported in the medical literature.
Is
On
it
top of
cell phones in your front pocket too?
That's what I was just getting to. On top of
Oh
that,
man.
this is not just the heat from the laptop computer. This data also indicates that Wi-Fi from laptops in this study, but we can draw the conclusion that there's also the potential in phones themselves. Anything with a Wi-Fi signal can cause alterations in DNA sperm fragmentation. You can see here on the bottom. So those electrical magnetic frequencies, EMFs, as people talk about now, those things can worsen it. So I always tell people, if you can, put your cell phone in your back pocket, put your cell phone in a side pocket. There's also data on cell phones reducing bone mineral density on the hip that you carry your phone in the most.
Oh,
This was in males, I believe, long term. So all that being said, don't have a laptop on your lap. If you are going to put it on your lap, Give yourself space, put a pillow, multiple pillows under there, put it on a table, have it not in contact or close to your vital organs. So, you can turn off the Wi-Fi. That might reduce the DNA fragmentation. But again, we go back to the heat concept. If you're wearing really tight-fitting underwear and you have a laptop sitting on top of you, probably not ideal. And if you're sitting in a sauna every night, this could contribute to infertility. We don't have data on this yet, but chronic heat exposure, more than likely from tight-fitting underwear, is more of a concern rather than saunas or hot tubs with short-term exposure. Big picture, where do we go with this? You got to get labs. You need an FSH, you need an LH, you need a total testosterone, you need a free testosterone, you need an estradiol, you need a DHEA. That's bare minimum. If your testosterone is low, you need a further workup to rule out things like high prolactin. You need a ferritin. You sometimes can have things like you can have a condition known as Wilson's disease that leads to a copper buildup, and this can affect testosterone production. You also need a testicular exam to make sure there isn't a varicocele or any sort of other abnormality, hernia. You need to rule out sleep apnea. A third of men
That
with
seems to
normal,
come around all the time, Mike.
say what?
Sleep apnea.
Yeah.
That seems to be something that gets thrown in here when there's a lot more dudes that have sleep apnea than I think we realize.
All the time. All the
Totally.
time. I
Yeah.
always tell patients a third of patients, male and female, normal body weight, have sleep apnea. And that can be the shape of the tonsils or the shape of the adenoids. You can have chronic sinus infections that drive airway obstructions, especially when you lay down at night because all those tissues swell with the effects of gravity. And you can have central brain-based apneas. These, again, can be screened at home. We've talked about that before, but you need to rule that out. Chronic sleep apnea can be a cause of hypogonadism leading to infertility. And again, guys are like, well, I don't want to take a sleep apnea test. You do it at home. It's a ring, it's a watch. It's super easy. It takes 2 seconds. We got to drive up omega-3 intake in the diet. So I always tell people about smash fish. These are going to be the highest omega-3 fishes. So salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring are the highest omega-3 content per weight of fish. You probably need at least, I would say anywhere from 6 to 8 ounces of salmon at least once, ideally closer to 4 to 6 ounces twice a week. So you're looking 10 to 12 ounces of salmon weekly to get, you're looking for at least 2 grams of EPA and DHA weekly. That's the data on improving sperm motility and morphology with omega-3s. High quality multi. Like we talked about, big picture going back here, people are like, oh, so should I supplement zinc and selenium and folic acid? No, you need a high quality multi. Don't worry about CoQ10. That can be further into the weeds. Carnitine, great from red meat, high quality red meat. CoQ10 is converted from a number of other nutrients. So again, get all of your necessary micros in the diet. I recommend high quality multis to nearly every patient. Get one with vitamin D in it. They're not expensive. You'll have to take more than one capsule a day. I don't like Centrum Silver. I don't like men's or women's one-a-day multi. They're cheap. I don't like gummy multivitamins. They're often underdosed. You can't get enough. You need like 6 to 8 gummies a day, especially in infertility. That's just the high level of multis. We can have a whole podcast on them, but you're going to need multiple capsules. Don't get a gummy. Don't get something that's popular on social media. The Oli gummies, OLLI, not super great. They're very popular.
No,
Don't
but
like
you're
them.
not a gummy supplement person anyway.
No,
Like
don't
gummy
get gummy
things like that.
creatine.
Yeah.
Don't. I just posted all about this on Facebook that most of the gummies that were tested on Amazon didn't contain anything. They were just literally gummies. You're buying gummy bears at
I
full
like gummy
price.
bears.
What you think is a supplement? Yeah, I mean, if you like gummy bears,
Yeah.
great, but
Yeah.
don't think you're
But
getting a
you're paying
multivitamin.
you're
Yeah,
paying
yeah.
creatine
Right.
price for gummy
Correct.
bears. So
Correct. So that's the multi. There are some companies out there for specific infertility like supplements. So like belly vitamins, I think they're BELI or BELLI. They have these multis that are catered to male and female with higher nutrient levels of certain things. I wouldn't get that far down the rabbit hole just yet. If you're
Mm.
not doing all these things, taking a multivitamin that's specific for infertility is not going to fix all these other things.
Mhm.
Start big picture, work your way down. Check your vitamin D. I like it over 50 for most folks. Get sun exposure. Get it on your face daily, even when it's cold. Just go outside, close your eyes, look up at the sun. Don't open your eyes and stare at the sun. I'm not recommending you go blind, but get some sun exposure on your face. It's great for your circadian rhythm. No laptops or phones. That's easy, non-negotiable. Doesn't cost you any money. It's just being cognizant. Right now, as I'm recording this, my laptop's on a desk. I even have space above the desk to give me more space from my lap. Reduce endocrine disrupting chemicals. Get the Environmental Working Group app. It's free. You can download it, scan all your personal care products. I tell patients,
Oh,
start with
really?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's totally free. Scan every single personal care product. If it's got a barcode on it, it will give you for most, but there's over thousands of products in this app. Scan them. See what they come back as. You'll be very surprised. The number of products that you're using on a daily basis have a number of compounds in them that are linked as endocrine disrupting chemicals.
Hmm.
So if you've
That,
got
and when it says like free and clear or whatever,
that
it will
doesn't mean
surprise you
anything.
sometimes.
That
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything.
Yep.
So start with scent-free products. If you don't have scent-free laundry detergent, if you're using dryer sheets, there's no clean dryer sheet on the market. There's no reason for dryer sheets. Buy wool dryer balls, get rid of dryer sheets. There's no good reason to have them. The vast majority of them have EDCs in them. Get scent-free laundry detergent. If you're a diehard Tide fan, just get the all free and clear. Scan it with the EWG app, but in general, these are the products that have reduced phthalates and parabens because those are put in to prolong the scent exposure experience with the consumer. So, scent-free products. Don't use Glade wall plugins if you're like, well, I want something to smell better. Open your windows. You're looking for the fresh scent smell. That's accumulated from fresh air. So, you're not going to find it in any spray product. If something smells bad, you need an environmental workup to rule out, is there a plumbing issue? You can have sewer gas, which contributes to oxidative stress. You can have a mold issue, like we talked about. So
Mm.
if things smell funny, don't try to put a band-aid on it. That's what conventional medicine does with all kinds of different things these days. Go figure out what's causing it.
I think can't you do like a pot of boiling water and put
Absolutely.
cinnamon
Absolutely.
sticks and you do that.
Yes. Potpourri.
Do
That's what
that.
it used to be called.
Perfect.
Potpourri.
Yep.
You
Do
can
that.
do essential oils. I always tell people be very careful with putting on topical essential oils. Lavender is a known uh, potential contributor to gynecomastia in males. So it's not
Actually, I
without
didn't know that.
risk. We talked about that in the past. Other easy, simple things. If you're using plastic water bottles, stop. Go buy a metal or glass water bottle and use it every single day. Just refill it. If you're using plastic Tupperware, go switch it out for glass. Go get Pyrex. These are easily accessible. It's going to take time. Do these things one at a time. Maybe your goal is for the next month, you're just swapping out products over time. You're just doing scent-free products and you're swapping out your laundry detergent. Maybe you're thinking about, maybe I should try a different shampoo and conditioner. Those big movers. Don't swap out all your hand soaps in your house. That's a small surface area of your skin. What are the things you're doing on a daily basis? This is more of a conversation in females, but in males, if you, for whatever reason, like putting lotion on or whatever, you need to scan those sort of things. I'm not worried about toothpaste, but those are big pictures. And then these are the ones for males. The guys are like, I just need something quick and easy. We got water bottles in the fridge, and I, heat up my ready-made, dinner in the plastic container it comes in. Take it out and heat it up on a plate. That takes 2 seconds. These are known endocrine disrupting exposures. They're not making your health any better. They are only making your health worse. You save money in the long run by reusing a water bottle and not continuing to buy plastic water bottles.
And I'll add one that I started doing a couple years ago. If you want to do this with your Christmas tree, because we're about there. After we take our Christmas tree down, I take off all the branches. I put them in a large,
Mhm.
airtight white bucket, add some oranges to it, and then I do distilled vinegar and water. And I
Mhm.
have cleaner
Yep.
for the whole entire year out
Yep.
of my Christmas tree. And that's my favorite thing to do every Christmas.
Mhm.
But literally, if you'll have a huge bucket of cleaner
Yeah.
that's non-toxic for the
Mhm.
whole year.
Yep. And from like a scent exposure, don't like if you do a lot of cleaning around the house and you like a super clean house, go scan all those
Yeah,
Lysol products,
totally.
all those Clorox products. The reason why you get lightheaded and dizzy when you're
Hmm.
cleaning your toilet with that scrubbing bubbles toilet cleaner is because of all those VOCs, volatile organic compounds we talked about earlier, that are coming off of the scents. So
Yep.
start with one, work your way through. So maybe month one, you're like, cool, I'm just getting rid of the plastic water bottles and my Tupperware. I'm gonna swap it out. Start there. Nice. Next step is continue with swaps. So cookware. If you're using non-stick pans, you're getting exposed to PFAS, which we talked about, and PFOAs. These are going to be endocrine disrupting chemicals that have a half-life of 600 years. They're in 99% of drinking water in the United States right now, 99% of breast milk. You can't get rid of them. They're in flame retardants. They're in non-stick pans. They're still on the market despite all the risk, all the data on them. So swap it out. These are the ones that you want to be looking for. Stainless steel. You can get these nearly anywhere. Get a good stainless steel pot, good skillet, cast iron. They're all easy to work with. They're all easy to clean. There's some you can get copper, but really these have no risk. And then ceramic, like La Crusette, if you want to go down the more expensive route.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, if you're really serious about infertility and removing all those barriers to infertility, you can't be using marijuana and tobacco, and you can't be vaping. This is a big one. People are like, oh, it's harmless. It's better than tobacco. It's not. It's much worse. I've talked to pulmonologists recently. They're
Mm.
seeing significant changes on CT scans of lungs in patients in their 20s and 30s that are not medically reversible, meaning they're getting fibrosis and scarring of the lungs that is only fixed with a lung transplant in the long run. They don't know how to fix these vaping changes that are occurring. So if you were using these things, yes, they are addictive. Yes, they're hard to stop. Get help if you need it. But these do contribute to infertility. They do contribute to sperm alterations in motility and morphology. It's in the medical literature. I didn't have time in 10 minutes to throw all those slides in here, but it's out there. And then last but not least, excess alcohol. If you're having like 1 or 2 drinks a week, not a big deal. If you're having multiple drinks every single night, yes, you are going to disrupt that HPG axis. You are going to worsen your sperm motility and morphology. This is big picture though, guys. These are the free, no cost ones. These are the ones that, yeah, they take a little bit of work, but again, they're not expensive. They're risk free. There's no side effects. It's not a drug. And then all of these other ones are things that you can work up with your doctor. The sleep apnea now, I can get you guys the name of it, but there's a number of companies now that you can just pay to test this. So your doctor says, well, I'm not going to check you for sleep apnea. You're a 20-year-old male. I'm not worried about it. You weigh 170 pounds. It's like $100. You can just
The
pay one of these labs.
Lukey ring or something like that.
You can do that, but these come with like interpretation from a pulmonologist that'll
All
look
right.
at your data too.
All right.
So if you just literally Google at-home sleep apnea screening, these will come up now. It's all out there. It's easy to access. Let me get off this for us.
Cool. Start there, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah.
do think it does feel overwhelming sometimes, but I always tell people when they start to work on this stuff, like you said, make a checklist of stuff that's like high priority and low priority. Something that's always really hard for people to get rid of is like, oh, I love my shampoo and conditioner, especially for a woman. I love my shampoo and conditioner. Okay, well, choose a different body wash. That one you're
Or
not as attached
I
to,
always tell
you know?
patients like laundry detergent's step one
Yeah,
because
totally.
you sleep in your sheets and you wear your
Yep.
clothes all day long. So yeah,
Yeah.
you're exposed to your shampoo and conditioner for what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes in the shower,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you're in clothes for the vast majority of the day. And then if you're not in clothes, you're in your bed that you've washed in that same laundry detergent. Always have to start with that. And then Febreze, Glade wall plugins, they gotta go.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no in between. They've gotta go.
Choose what feels easy. That's what I
Yeah.
tell people. I'm like, whatever you think, like getting rid of plastic is really freaking easy. So just get rid of plastic to start. And then as you find that you maybe feel better or you find that, oh, that wasn't so hard, you can start to attach more things.
And if a dude's on TRT and he's like, I'm on TRT, it's already replaced. So even if plastic messes up my, endocrine receptors, who cares? Well, the whole conversation that we just had earlier, Josh, we're talking about the receptor sensitivity. We can't measure that. EDCs disrupt that because of the whole cytokine inflammatory load. It gums up all those receptors. So we can't measure it. So it's only going to get better at your current dose. That's the thing. You
Yeah.
free up more testosterone in circulation. So it doesn't matter if you're on TRT. Doing all these other things is going to help all your other symptoms independent of your TRT.
Yeah. I'm sure there's
Mhm.
some dudes out there that got on TRT and sleep apnea, horrible lifestyle, bad food, didn't quit drinking, and they're like, why'd my levels only bump up 150?
Yeah.
Well,
TRT is not a get out of jail free card.
it is not. No, no, absolutely. All right, guys. I mean, this is the beginning of our series
Yeah.
we're
Yep.
doing. And Greg, can you give us a little bit of people that are coming on this series? Who we got?
Yeah, so my main thing to talk about was it started as fertility and infertility. And I was like, you know what? I've worked with women that deal with PCOS. Let's get somebody with PCOS. We're working on that one. Endometriosis kind of goes along with PCOS, in my opinion. They are hand in hand a little bit, of women that, deal with an autoimmune disorder. So I was like, let's get somebody that's going to talk about endometriosis. So what you're going to see is a few talks. We have three people, including Mike, that are going to come on and talk about fertility and infertility. I do think, like I said before we started recording, that everybody will kind of touch on fertility and infertility because a lot of these things are kind of brought up and discussed when
Hmm.
we're thinking about conception. But yeah, you'll see we haven't booked somebody yet for PCOS, but I'm in talks with people about PCOS. We have an endometriosis dietitian that's going to come on. I'm in talks with a postpartum pelvic floor
Oh,
physical therapist.
hmm
So I think that will be very interesting too. So when you're thinking of, what's the point of all of this, think about basically health optimization when you're starting a family
yeah.
or when you're postpartum. So
All right. We appreciate you, Mike, as always.
yeah,
And
part one.
what we'll do too, Mike, is again make sure people know. I had so many people hit me back about the link about getting their blood work done
Oh
that were
yeah,
blown away at that,
yeah.
and we will post that and then how to get with you. The last podcast we did with you where we had that link and then how to get in touch with you, we'll post that again. I know people have already reached out to you. So,
Hmm.
like always, we appreciate you.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
Mike.
Thanks for having me.